And if you have to look up that Bowser is obsessed with Princess Peach, this movie is not made for you. Bowser is the villain. Villains do not do good things. Okay? I know that might be difficult to grasp. But why are you expecting Bowser is going to uphold Me Too sensitivities? Hello everyone, I'm Nick Peters with Deeper Waters Apologetics, the Gaming Theologian, and I affirm the virgin birth. Where this past Saturday I saw the Super Mario Bros. Movie with some friends here at the seminary, and I thought it was incredible. It could be the best animated film I've ever seen. And if someone wanted to see it again, I'd be more willing to say, hey, I'll go. It's such a great movie. If you are a Nintendo fan, a Mario fan, this movie gives you everything you've been wanting. The critics and the audience really disagree a lot on this movie. And one of the big problems is the critics, they come from a highly political perspective a lot of times. And second, that the critics do not understand video games and Mario. Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer. So we're going to be going through her video review today, and I'll be giving you my reactions. So let's watch.
So wow! I'm kind of shocked at how bad this movie is. Universal knows, though. Universal knows, which is why the embargo is lifting mere hours before the movie premieres. I don't think this is going to make $1 billion.
Yeah, let's check and see how much this movie has made so far. Estimates from some people are it could make $1.5 billion. Nintendo is laughing all the way to the bank with this one, and they should. They made a good product, and it is being loved by the fans.
I think it might still have a big opening weekend. I don't even know if it's going to make it to Friday. I think word of mouth on this is going to be toxic, or whatever toxic goo there is in Nintendo world that destroys.
Well, it's made it past Friday, and word of mouth so far is going very, very strong. Just look at Rotten Tomatoes, see what the audience score is. That's word of mouth.
Stuff that it touches. So let me walk you through this, right? Because I know a lot of you aren't going to believe me, but I think you're going to be seeing a lot of bad reviews drop right now, and yeah, it's unfortunately true. Now, as I've mentioned before when discussing this movie, I don't play Nintendo games, right? Like, I know who the characters are.
There's your problem right there. If you don't play Nintendo games, this isn't for you. And of course, you're going to be lost in it.
Like the big ones, but I'm certainly not a Nintendo fan. But, you know, just like I say movies shouldn't require homework, this should be accessible to a non-Nintendo fan, especially if it wants to make $1 billion. But you know, I do love Illumination movies. I watch The Grinch every year. I love.
Why should it be accessible to a non-Nintendo fan? I think there's enough in there that can get you started on this, but usually movies that are based on established franchises already are not like this. My dad's told me that when I was a kid and he took me to see the original Ninja Turtles movie, that you'd hear kids in the audience saying, "Casey Jones, cheapskate," and the adults didn't have a clue what was happening. But the kids knew, and the kids loved it, and that's what mattered.
Illumination films. I think they're fantastic. And the trailers for this have been very bright and fun. Plus, I've been really getting into Universal Studios Super Nintendo World. Like, I haven't had a chance to go there, but I've watched all the videos. I'd like to go there. It looks like a good time. So I'm like, you know, this seems fun. You know, everybody's so excited for Super Nintendo World, for this movie, right? And who doesn't love a party? I'm like, I want to be in here too, everybody. Move over. So I was very excited for my press screening. I was like, oh boy. So there were about 40 of us in the basement of AMC Lincoln Square, and they gave us free snacks. Yummy. And it was very nice. I had a great seat, wasn't too crowded. I had like my space. I was set. I was like, oh boy. But then the movie started, and again, out of like 40 of us critics, it was a critics-only screening. The all media is tonight. It was a critics-only screening, and I would say out of 40, maybe 2 people were enjoying and laughing at the movie. They were having a good time, though. Maybe you're one of those 2. But the rest of us just sat there in stony silence.
Which tells me again, the critics are out of touch. Keep in mind, the critics really love Velma as well. The audience hated it. I really think we just need to get rid of a lot of our critics because they don't speak for us.
Just waiting for the movie to end. You were like, oh, whew. I mean, I also was not only not enjoying it, but I was shocked that I couldn't get into the movie. I was like, how is this bad? I haven't had this hard a time watching a movie since DC Super Pets. I would describe both of these movies as torture to sit through.
I haven't seen DC Super Pets, but after hearing this, I'm thinking I should check this movie out because it probably sounds really good.
So the fact that I was like, make it stop, was pretty bad. Although I wanted to walk out of DC Super Pets, as I told you, and the only reason I stayed was because, again, I'm reviewing it. I'd love to be able to say, hey, it gets really good. Narrator, it does not. And also, the visuals here were pretty good. And I really like Anya Taylor-Joy's Princess Peach and Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong. So, it wasn't quite as bad as Super Pets, but it was close. It was bad. But speaking of the amazing visuals, Super Mario Brothers is available in 3D. And if you like 3D and you're willing to pay a couple of extra bucks for it, you might want to consider it. Also, maybe as a safety net, because the movie's so bad, at least you'll have peak visuals. Particularly the Mario Kart sequences. When I was watching those, I was like, wow, I bet these would look pretty good in 3D. I mean, I think the movie's actually been made to be seen in 3D. I think they should be advertising that more. Like the rainbow road gets all swirly, and then the camera starts swirling, and you're like, oh, this is cool. And I did feel, I was like, oh, why aren't I watching this in 3D? Now, as I said, I've been able to get into other mythologies, but I just couldn't get into this movie despite being a ready and willing participant. I was like, come on, Nintendo World, indoctrinate me. So I thought about it, and I saw it last night, and I've been like, why couldn't I get into this movie? And this morning, eureka, it clicked, and I realized the problem. The Super Mario Brothers movie, this latest one, they did the live action one many years ago. But while this is supposed to be an origin story,
the problem is clear already. You're not a Nintendo fan. This movie was not made for you, and it's not supposed to hold your hand and explain everything to you. Just like whenever you boot up the first Super Mario Bros. Game and play it, all you guys, the instruction book, okay, Bowser's kidnapped a princess, gotta go rescue her. That's pretty much it. You go out and you do it. Mario games, even the RPGs, are not really known for their stories.
Where Mario and Luigi do discover the Mushroom Kingdom for the very first time. I didn't even know it was called the Mushroom Kingdom. I had to look it up. It's not even made clear in the movie. But the movie is written for fans and fans only. Nothing is explained to the audience.
Yeah, the fact that you didn't know the land that Mario rescues is called the Mushroom Kingdom, that's really not the kind of thing you want to be saying when you make a review, because all you do is display to your audience, hey, I'm totally ignorant of the source material. It's written for fans. And you know what? Nintendo has enough of those after 40 years. They don't need to worry about doing all the extra work to attract more fans. They just reach out to the fans they've got, and they've got it.
Not the world, not the characters, not the circumstances, and not even really the point. Now, some of you might be like, good, I'm a fan, and I just want to get to it. I mean, there's nothing to get to, but, a good screenwriter, screenwriting, it's always been disrespected in Hollywood, but this is it's at its lowest point right now. Like, a good screenwriter can make this fun for everyone, right? This is like Nintendo Easter Egg the movie, the opposite of Andor. This is just all Easter eggs. You just choke on them. It's too much candy.
Well, it's not all Easter eggs. When you see them pop up throughout the movie, it is super exciting for the fans. In the very beginning, when I saw someone named Spike wearing a Wrecking Crew outfit, I knew exactly what that was. And then when you see Mario saying we have to run to our job, and it's pretty much set up like it's a 2D platformer, I was like, oh, this is just so awesome. And I loved it because it was made for someone like me. The Easter eggs made it even more exciting.
Opening, which is very Illumination. It seems more Illumination than Nintendo. You could be watching a scene from Sing or Secret Life of Pets, quite frankly. But then after that, there's like no story. Well, and what little story they do have, I found a couple of things. One was confusing. Like, why don't any of the other humans look like Mario and his family? And why is the human world super realistic, yet full of cartoon-looking characters? I was like, that's weird. The animation, though, again, is stunning. And some of the backgrounds in the human world looked almost real. But again, that was so bizarre that there were cartoons running around in there. Back to the story, I would also say it's a little disturbing. Because apparently in the games, Bowser, I had to look it up, Bowser is obsessed with Princess Peach. And has been for very...
Again, if you have to look up that Bowser is obsessed with Princess Peach, this movie is not made for you.
A long time. But in today's marketplace, post-Me Too, to hear Bowser declare that he's going to ask Princess Peach to marry him, which apparently isn't a spoiler, because I looked it up and it happens in the games all the time, but he's like, I'm going to ask Princess Peach to marry me, and like his little sycophant sorcerer is like, what if she doesn't want to? And he's like, then I'll destroy her kingdom and kill everyone she knows. And you're like, wow, that's stalker behavior. And I would say...
Okay. To say that this is a problem post-Me Too, let me explain something to you, Grace, you might not understand. Bowser is the villain. Villains do not do good things. Okay? I know that might be difficult to grasp. But why are you expecting Bowser is going to uphold Me Too sensitivities? Yeah, burning down kingdoms if someone doesn't want to marry you is entirely stalker behavior. Right there. Seriously, what are you talking about with this? Bowser is the villain. He acts like the villain, and everyone expects him to act like the villain. I mean, what did you think? Bowser was going to say, I'm going to go get the princess, but first I'm going to call her parents and make sure it's okay with her. He's the villain. He does what a villain does.
Kind of makes this not appropriate for children, quite frankly. And I would argue that most of the movie is about who's going to date Princess Peach. And that's it. My jaw was on the floor. I'm like, is that really what this movie is about? That is a really outdated story. I think...
No, it's not an outdated story. In fact, it's kind of a way that Super Mario Odyssey wraps up when you get done with that.
I think fans and just moviegoers in general, and everybody associated with this film, deserve more. And it's a shame, because Jack Black does a fantastic job as Bowser. You can't even recognize that it's Jack Black.
Yeah, I agree on this one. Jack Black is a fantastic Bowser.
Voice. Then Bowser sings, and you're like, oh yeah, he's voiced by Jack Black. And you still can't tell that it's Jack Black. And I think that the talent is definitely here. It's really just the script. So Jack Black was fantastic. Also, in an effort to move away from speaking of disturbing, I would also classify this movie as a little offensive, because instead of doing the Italian accents, ironically because they were worried about being offensive, instead they decided to give everyone a variation of a New York accent, which again I found kind of offensive. It's like everyone's either in good...
Wow. People who live in New York have a New York accent, and that is offensive. Why? You see, Grace, this is the kind of thing that people are sick of. We are sick of everything being about race and identities. We just want to enjoy a movie.
Goodfellas or a Woody Allen movie, because and not just in the New York scenes, by the way. Mario and Luigi live in New York City, but you're like, when you get to the Mushroom Kingdom, Donkey Kong Land is the same way, and so you're just kind of like, why would you make that choice? Like, why do you think that's somehow not offensive and the Italian thing would be? It's just crazy. The movie also leans really heavily on classic hit songs, a little bit the way Guardian...
Like, if you're going to a movie like this and you're looking at the voices of the characters to see if they're offensive or not, you've got bigger problems.
The galaxy has done. And sometimes it gets your blood pumping. It's not a bad strategy. But here it's very poorly executed. Like everything, just when you're like, okay, now we're cooking, it peters out. And they're like, okay, we're done. And you're like, oh, you promised me a fun jam. Like when they start to make the Mario Karts and one of the Kongs is like puts on his shades and he's like, what do you want me to do for you? But he just says it with a nod and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it seems like it's going to be awesome. The music starts, they turn up the volume, and then they're done.
And by the way, Grace, you don't know this since you don't play games. When you make the Mario Karts, that's exactly what happens in Mario Kart 8. Fans recognize it. That's why we enjoy it.
And I was like, I guess if you've ever built your own Mario Kart, you'd be like, oh, cool, it's just like the game. But as someone who has never built a Mario Kart, I still have not had the pleasure of the experience.
Yep, that's the problem again. When we've done it, we say, yes, it's just like the game, cool. You haven't done it, so it doesn't mean anything to you.
But I did really like Anya Taylor-Joy. She is always a delight as an actress on screen, but it turns out she has a great voice for animation as well. And she's a great sport. Look what she wore to the premiere for the movie, a variation on Princess Peach's Mario Kart outfit. I thought that was great. I am a little tired, though, of girl power for the sake of girl power characters. Like, if you're not going to fully develop them, I just get frustrated because I know certain groups are going to complain.
There's only one group really complaining that I know of. It's critics like you. Those of us who have watched Mario over the years have seen things like Super Princess Peach, and heck, there were even episodes of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show where a princess was quite heroic. She was one of the main playable characters in Super Mario Bros. 2. Granted, not really meant to be a Mario game, but she still played that role. And by the way, if you want to talk about girl power, keep in mind, Nintendo was the one who had Samus Aran originally from Metroid with, lo and behold, with shock at the end of the game. The major bounty hunter is a woman. That's Nintendo who did that.
You should have justification for things. It's like if you're not going to do it right, don't do it. And again, she's all girl power, but yet the movie is just about who she's going to date. She's a princess in name only. I didn't see her make any rules or control the kingdom or anything. She just kind of went on a date with Mario and Bowser was really jealous about it. And you're like, is this really what this movie is about?
Yeah. The princess was the one making a lot of the arrangements, but you know why the princess wasn't the star of the story? Because the movie is called Super Mario Brothers. If it was a movie of Super Princess Peach, Peach would be the star. And do you really think kids want to see a movie with Princess Peach making a bunch of laws and giving a lot of statements that are political and things of that sort? No, they want to see the Peach they've known.
Keegan-Michael Key's voice is also unrecognizable as Toad, which is a shame. I love Keegan-Michael Key. But Toad is adorable, and he serves as a good ad for his new restaurant at Universal Studios. In fact, I wish he'd done more cooking. I was like, oh, that's why he has a restaurant. That's great. That's awesome. What are you making? There was one quick moment where I can't do a spoiler review for this movie because I still can't really tell you what happened in it. But there was like one distraction and I felt like they didn't even do that right. I was like, tell them that there's good food back there, Mario. Why do you be like, hey, he's cooking up something back there. I was like, yeah, that's clearly the move. All right, so speaking of Mario, how's Chris Pratt? Everybody wants to know, how's Chris Pratt? Well, he's doing a thick New York accent, so he doesn't sound too much like Chris Pratt. I mean, occasionally you're like, there he is. And Chris Pratt, by the way, outside of the controversy that surrounds him, he's a very good actor, a very likable actor, and he does a good job in that regard with, the emotion and all that stuff. He certainly is able to deliver in that capacity. But again, the script is so awful. Mario and Luigi's relationship just seems really forced. It's like screenwriter Matthew Fogel, who should never work again, he's done a couple of stuff for Illumination, that's about it. It's like he saw Frozen and decided to do the...
I thought Mario and Luigi's relationship in the movie was great. It was just like it has been in the other media they've done. Mario and Luigi are brothers, and they focus on one another as brothers, and they stick up for one another. And yes, Luigi is always scared of everything, but he will back his brother when the time comes. And as we know from Luigi Mansion's games, when Luigi has to be the hero and rescue his brother, he sucks up all his fear, kind of like you would with a vacuum cleaner, and does it.
Male version of Elsa and Anna, but none of the work to make it work. And since they insisted on putting Mario in the real world, so to speak, why do he and Luigi wear those funny outfits and gloves? I was like, you guys look ridiculous. I mean, none of it made sense. Nothing in the movie made sense, so it was hard for me to get into any of it.
Here's why they wear those funny outfits and gloves. Because they do it in the games, and they've done it in pretty much every media they've done. You go watch the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, it's there. You watch the Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, it's there. You watch the Adventures of Super Mario World, it's there. Right? So if you don't know about the movies, don't talk about them. It'd be better if you just made a review and said, well, here are some things, but honestly, I don't know what's going on because I'm not a Nintendo fan. Okay, that's fine.
Speaking of Mario and Luigi, though, Charles Martinet, he had a nice cameo. He is the OG and current voice of Mario and Luigi in the games, and a lot of fans were disappointed he's not voicing them here. But even I was like, oh, that's Charles Martinet. That's awesome. And I think it was a very nice thing to do for him. He showed up, I think, twice. He showed up like twice. Very, very briefly, but it was cute. Even the action sequences aren't that exciting. There's like no suspense. It's just like, oh, hey, look, it's like the game. But you never really feel like you're running any of the gauntlets yourself. You still look like you're watching the game screen instead of being put into the action. That's the whole benefit of making it a movie.
Yeah, it's like the game. And no, you don't feel like you're running the gauntlets, but that's because it's a movie. You're watching it. You're not pushing the buttons yourself this time.
And then, when could Mario turn into a cat? I guess, like, if you're into furries, that works. And maybe that'll play really well in Asian markets. I know they love cats over there, like, love cats. But I just felt it robbed Mario of a lot of his personal dignity. I was like, don't do that to Mario. Where's Mario's agent?
Okay, I'm going to say a little bit more about this in a bit, but you just talked earlier about the Italian aspect and said that could be offensive, and then you make a stereotype about Asian people, and that's A-okay. Got it.
There are also 2 end credit scenes, but they're not really noteworthy. One's comedic. The second one tries to set up a potential sequel. They're like, oh, if we make another one of these, this character's...
Mario's agent knows that Mario has been able to don a cat costume since 2013. Only for a whole decade. You can find a whole game based on the cat costume, or even Bowser dons the cat costume. Yes, by the way, there will be another Mario movie. I can pretty much guarantee it. Like, brace yourself, Grace. I suspect the whole Nintendo Cinematic Universe is coming. We are going to see a Legend of Zelda movie. Perhaps we'll see a Kirby movie, a Star Fox movie, a Metroid movie. I'd love to see a Kid Icarus movie. These are coming. And Nintendo could be... I would love to see Nintendo take down Disney entirely.
Gonna show up, get excited! But that character kind of showed up earlier in the film in the background in a way, like at least a variation of them. I spotted him! And this end credit scene is so quick that it's hard to get super excited unless you're just so excited about that character. Just like the mere tease or mention or like blip.
Yeah, it was enough for us. In fact, I'll tell you this, when the movie was over for us, some of us in the audience applauded. It was so good.
Of him is enough. So yeah, this is a mess. There's no story. Nothing is explained to newbies like myself. It's kind of offensive. And none of the animation styles fit together because I guess maybe they're different games. I mean, I guess it looks this way in Mario Kart, right? But from a story perspective, it just did not work for me. I have never seen an Illumination misfire this bad. In fact, I don't think they've ever misfired. This is not only the worst movie they've ever made, but in my opinion, the only bad movie they've ever made.
Meanwhile, Contra, I'd say this could be the best movie they've ever made. Just look at how well it is doing with the audience. Look at how well the sales are doing. Yeah, Nintendo hit a home run here.
And maybe what's different here, it's because Nintendo was so involved creatively, as you can see from the credits when you watch the movie. I guess it doesn't...
And that's what made the difference. Nintendo was involved. Nintendo tries to stay neutral in political happenings, and so when the temptation came to make this much more of a woke movie, Nintendo said, no, this movie is about Mario, and Mario's going to come out looking good. If Nintendo had gone the other route, this movie would quite likely have bombed.
Always work out, like with The Last of Us. This was... So that's my review of Super Mario Brothers. If you aren't a fan of the games, you've been warned. But maybe you need to go with somebody who is a Nintendo fan. It's going to be rough for you. I pity you. But just remember what a good friend you're being. And maybe before the movie starts, ask your Nintendo fan friend to explain some of this stuff to you, which might make it a little less painful. But I'll be honest with you, I don't even really think your Nintendo fan friend is going to like this. All right, so share your thoughts down below. Subscribe. I know a lot of you are going to have to see this to believe it, but I think most people are not going to. I think it's going to be like my screening. 2 out of the 40 really had a good time. And I don't know if they loved it even, but at least they were laughing and reacting. All right, so share your thoughts down below. Subscribe. I don't even know if kids, again, I don't even know if it's appropriate for kids, quite frankly. All right, share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.
And to conclude with that, yes, this is entirely appropriate for kids. Parents, please take your kids to see this movie because you do not have to worry about some hidden agenda. Your kids are just going to go and they're going to have a good time. They're going to laugh. They're going to have fun. They're going to enjoy themselves. And all these things that Grace finds so concerning, these already happen in the games, and we know Mario is the hero because he stops the villains who are doing these concerning things. And if your kids are already getting caught up in race issues and things like that, teach them better, okay? Because Nintendo's hit a home run here because they have avoided these issues. Finally, a movie we can all see as a family. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Next time, I do plan on giving my own positive thoughts, trying to be as spoiler-free as movie, but tell you much more from a positive perspective, not just a response perspective, why you should see this movie. So please like this video, comment, share, definitely subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the easier it's going to be to produce these videos, and definitely consider joining my Patreon. The more we get, the more we can do. For now, I'm Nick Peters of Deeper Waters Apologetics, and I affirm the virgin birth.